Today's stream is about to start. We'll talk about code or whatever we'll talk about today. It's about to start, so please hang tight while I check that everything is okay. Sound check, camera check, lights check. How's my hair? Oh, wait, I don't have any hair. Maybe put some pants on and I am good to go. So get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Get ready wherever you are, 'cause this stream is about to start. Hi, I'm Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together or debug some code that other people wrote together. Arya, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. I mean, what are you gonna do, you know?
Okay, so before we dive into the main topic of today, which is going to be the tags on your website, how about we talk about the thing that you have been, an issue that you have been facing with OBS, which seems to be a current theme in our conversation. So tell me all about it.
Yeah, so, okay, I'll tell you the full story. So, you know, early on, I was just like kind of blissfully ignorant of all the settings in OBS. So I would put my webcam in the corner, put my screen on, connect the audio, and I was off to the races. And of course, the audio side, like I have a good grasp on, but I didn't really know, like, I didn't know much about like video quality and stuff like that. So I was okay. Then like talking to you, talking to the awesome John Tidy and stuff, I realized, okay, like the bit rate of my videos is a little bit low. Also, I would like look at my videos on a phone and they looked like kind of blurry. So that was a bit rate situation, which I fixed. I used to do 4,000, I did 6,000. Then I got a 2K monitor, so I started doing videos in 2K. And early on when I got it, like it was a smooth transition. I just changed my my video size to 2K, and I set my bitrate to 16K, which is pretty high. And then it was working fine. And then like a week later, 16K started being a little bit too slow. And at first I figured out, oh, it's because I used to like, cause I shoot long videos, I would record on my hard drive, which was not even an SSD, it was an HDD. So I changed that. I put it on SSD, and then again, I could do 16K or 16 megabits per second. It was all good. And then like a week later, 16 megabits per second no longer worked. It would just stall my system. It would just slow everything down. And then I went and did some reading. I looked at like a bit rate calculator, and they were like, 12K, you're going to be okay. So I put it to 12K, and it worked for a couple of weeks, and then 12K started being too slow. So I was like, all right, well, like it is Reaper. Like I'm not streaming gaming. So let's go down to 10K. So 10K works for 10 days, and then that stopped working. So I went down to 9K, and on and on and on it goes until now I'm at 8K. And it's like, as soon as I run OBS, it starts to like drop frames. So I have it to 30 FPS, and then like 2 seconds in, it's like 25 FPS. And even then I can live with, but then it goes to like 4 FPS, and everything gets like super laggy and everything gets blurry. And so then I tried looking at like, not doing CBR, which is constant bitrate, which is good for like streaming and stuff. But if you're recording a video, you can also go with variable bitrate, which is, I guess, it figures out like the static bits of the screen. It doesn't give them any bitrate. So, and that was fine for a while as well. When I was doing like a video where I was changing the theme, I could feel that kind of stalling. And then I tried different encoders. I changed everything, and nothing kind of helped. And what really I was like kind of wondering about was like, okay, like my computer is not the best. It's a 2018 like Mac Mini. So like, yeah, like maybe it's just not able to handle the stuff. But I couldn't figure out why it could handle something like 1 week, and then the next week my hardware didn't change week to week. So finally I was doing a lot of workarounds, literally shooting some videos like 2 or 3 times, just took my face out and re-recorded my like voiceover and video later, which was super inconvenient and added to editing time, blah, 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 blah. So finally last week I ran out of like pre-shot videos that I could edit to keep the channel going. So I started recording with QuickTime, because you can do screen recording in QuickTime. And that works fine. That works completely fine. Of course, you don't get any, at least not easily, maybe with Hammerspoon and stuff, it's possible. You don't really get any control over setting the bit rates, setting the frames per second, etc. But with QuickTime automatically on its own, without me asking it, is capturing 60 frames per second. And it's like the bitrate changes. I think it decides based on how much it can do. But so far, it's been doing like 9 megabits to 13 megabits per second at 60 frames per second. So I'm like, if QuickTime can do that, how come OBS can't do 30 frames per second at, say, 9 megabits per second? So yeah, that is the full story of like what's been happening. Yeah, like hardware wise, my only change since the beginning of the channel has been the 2K monitor. So I don't know. I even thought about going back to 1080p, but I thought maybe we can look at that. I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe it's OBS.
All right. Okay. So I have so many questions and comments about all of this. Let's begin with, I guess, the beginning. You mentioned that you were able to use higher bit rates until you got the second display. So did you try taking out the second display, and maybe that was the issue? Because the second display is work for the GPU.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the beginning when I got the second display, I just set it to 16 megabits per second. It worked fine for like a couple weeks. So I mean, I can disconnect the 2K display and do 1080p. That's okay. And I would like if nothing works, I guess I'd do that. I also tried disconnecting my 1080p screen. So this one that I've had forever. And that again kind of helps, but doesn't fully solve the problem. And the issue when I'm shooting is like, now that I don't trust OBS, I have it visible here. I disable the preview, but just so that I can see when it starts to give me the encoder overload thing. Mm-hmm. And if I disconnect the screen, I would end up like shooting a video, and then in post, I'd see that, okay, like 90% of it was garbage. There's another weird issue too, where, so I have 3 encoder choices. In Mac, I have X264, I have software, and I have hardware. And I was always using X264 just because that was the thing. If I switch to hardware, I get 0 encoding overload. It works fine. But when I import the video in Reaper, literally every time I press play, it takes 5 seconds.
Okay, so I know all about
anything
this.
to happen. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so let's switch screens and I will show you what I have going on here. I don't think I will be able to show everything because some options are grayed out since I am streaming as we talk about this. I could probably open a second instance of OBS, but let's not. That has potential of breaking everything on this stream right now. So what you're talking about is this encoder. And the encoder that you are currently using and the encoder that I am using is this one because it supports constant bitrate. In fact, because I'm in the simple mode, I don't even get to see those options. But it is running with a constant bitrate. And that's important for streaming because when you're sending the data to YouTube and other people are getting the data on the other side, if you're using constant bitrate, it's easier for the person on the other side to chunk the data coming in and see, oh, okay, so this is a frame and this is a frame and that's a frame. But with variable encoding, well, the frames are not the same size, are they? So you have to do a bit extra work on the receiving side to decode and make sense of things, which when recording and putting things in Reaper for editing later, it's fine. But for streaming, it's not. So variable bitrate is out of the table for streaming, but it's definitely okay for recording. And in theory, you could get better results with variable bitrate because it would be less encoding to do.
Yeah.
That said, so there are a couple interesting things you can try to do. You can remove well, no, not really. You already said that you can remove the 180p display and only run one display, but then you wouldn't have the feedback of encoding overload. But just for testing to see if that would help, you don't really have to shoot anything real. You just have to leave OBS running for a couple minutes while you do some other work. So that's an idea. But really, let's get down to two main interesting things that you mentioned. QuickTime can record at higher quality and it doesn't break a sweat. So that's an interesting thing number one. And I know why that is. Interesting thing number two is if you record something using another encoder, Reaper has a hard time figuring out how to edit the thing. So let's start with the second thing because it's easier to explain.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, when you're using hardware encoder in macOS, that's not true of Windows, by the way. If you're using NVIDIA cards on Windows, you have options, I think, that are constant bitrate and that are encoded with hardware on the GPU on an NVIDIA card. And Fotis and Stuff is here. Hello. Before we get into the website stuff, Fotis, we are talking about OBS and streaming. So it's a meta stream of sorts. And I count on you tomorrow, Fotis, and Arya, and everyone else to join me on the study group. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll be there. By the way, if you want, because my OBS is idling, so if you want me to share my screen and show settings and stuff, let me know.
Oh yeah, sure. But let me explain just on a high level the concept that we are going for here. If I was not streaming and right now you are not streaming, so you can do that. You can come here to the encoder and switch that to the Mac OS encoder, the hardware encoder that comes with a Mac. That one only supports variable bitrate. So again, you don't even get options. It's just variable bitrate. So as I mentioned, the reason why you don't want to stream with variable bitrate is because someone on the receiving side has to decode the packages. They have to see like, where is even a full frame here? Where does a frame even start at this point, right? Because the frames don't have a fixed size. And that's similar to the issue that Reaper has when editing. Variable bitrate is not necessarily the best for editing because of that. But there is another issue. And that one, I don't think I can show here right now. But you probably can find it on your side. And if you find it, then we can do the screen sharing thing if you want. But in any case, the setting is how often you are going to send an iframe. I think that's the name of the frame. Yeah, I think it's an iframe. So an iframe, I think is iframe the name of the thing, but it's like a full frame.
There's a P frame as well. um, in the settings.
Do you,
Or yeah, like, and there's a box to tick to say use B frames.
oh yeah, so let's talk about these different kinds of frames. Maybe since I am sharing my screen, it would be easy to go to Wikipedia, iframe, B frame, P frame. Video compression, picture types, exactly. So there are 3 types of frames. Iframes, and I got the name right first try, and Bo is here. Hello, Bo. Yes, C++ tomorrow. I see you all there. It's going to be a lot of fun. But not today. Today we are talking about the results of writing C++. OBS is written in C++. And what happens with that kind of program. And OBS is great, by the way. Really like it. In any case, so there are 3 kinds of frames.
I used to too. Yeah.
On a video stream, there are, or in the usual kinds of video compression that you get with MP4s and the kinds of videos you're probably going to see. There are 3 kinds of frames: the I frames, the P frames, and the B frames. Have you heard of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know of them because of like data moshing.
There you go. Yeah. So, and I learned
Yeah.
about data moshing from you. So iframes are complete frames. They have information about everything in the image. P frames is for predicted frames or forward predicted frames. It's just frames that parts of the information that have changed since an iframe. That's the P frame. And B frame is parts of the image that have changed both from the previous one as well as from the following one. So you don't want to encode every frame fully because many things are not going to change. For instance, in the image that we are in right now, most of my browser doesn't change every frame. So in iframes, you store a whole browser. In P frames, you store maybe my face and Arya's. And in B frames, maybe Arya, if he's not moving too much, you don't even need to store his whole scenario. You just can get it from following frames and that sort of thing. So in OBS, depending on the kind of encoder that you're using, you will have a say in how many iframes you're going to send. And in the typical setting that you see when streaming and when recording is 2 seconds. That means that when you record a bunch of video and then you throw it in Reaper, it is going to have 2 relatively difficult jobs. The first is in a variable bitrate, it has to find the beginning of the frame. It's not the end of the world. The encoders, the video compression thingies, they are okay. It's more work to find a frame in variable bitrate, but it's not too much work. But then it has to find the previous iframe, the following iframe, and reconstruct the frames in the middle. And if you're not sending iframes often enough, that can be a lot of work. If there is an iframe here and another iframe 30 seconds later, Reaper, when editing and you put the cursor in the middle, like 15 seconds in, it has to go to second 0, second 30, and then make up the whole history of these 30 seconds before it can show you a single frame. That's what's taking long.
Right.
So in the hardware encoder here in OBS, there will be a setting for you to say how often you're going to send iframes. And if you leave it that at 2 seconds, it's relatively good for OBS and for streaming as well.
That's the keyframe interval, right?
That's exactly. The iframe is called a keyframe.
Yeah. So I'll tell you my adventures with that. They said set 0 for auto. I was like, all right.
Yeah, don't do that.
Right. So yeah, I've always had it to 0, and then where I work on the TV station, they have OBS Streamlabs and they pay for it, so you get support. The support is pretty good. So I was chatting to this guy and he was helping me and I was pretending that this is a issue there. So he said set the keyframe interval to 2 seconds. So I was like, all right. But that didn't help. So then I tried 1, I tried 3, I tried like 5. Nothing helped. I set it back to 0 for now. But yeah, like I tried that. And then there's another thing called profile. and the guy was like, set the profile to baseline because high would be like for gaming and stuff. I was like, I'm doing a screen share. Yeah, that also didn't really change anything.
Yeah, that's not going to change anything.
Like, I didn't notice.
Yeah, so the profile, do you know what the profile is?
No.
Yeah, the profile is something that is similar to, you know how in cameras you have like different profiles that are essentially just presets of saturation, brightness, and that sort of thing?
Right.
So the profile is, I don't want to say that it's similar to that, but it's the closest thing that I can imagine in comparison. So the profile comes down to this. When compressing video is a difficult task. When compressing video, there are many different strategies that you can use. And depending on what you are encoding, if you're encoding like a cartoon that has mostly big blobs of the same color, you may want to use certain techniques versus when you are encoding a football game, you probably want to use different kinds of settings. The profile is what features do you have available when encoding and decoding. It used to be back in the day that some hardware would not even support all the features. So baseline was a good strategy, especially if you're streaming, because on my new Mac Mini, I can stream using the highest profile, which is just telling the encoder, you can use any algorithm, any strategy that you know of. If you know a strategy that is going to make this better, use it. But then on the other side, someone has an old phone that doesn't support that feature, so they wouldn't be able to decode the video. So baseline was a good middle ground supported by all hardware. These days, it's not such a big issue. I mean, most phones and most computers are going to handle any kind of profile you throw at them. And I haven't been able to measure any significant difference using different profiles. In theory, using higher profiles would mean that you would have better encoding in terms of image quality, maybe better performance. In practice, I couldn't really tell a difference.
Same.
Yeah. But putting the keyframes
so I guess I have a question.
I had the issue that you mentioned.
Sorry, go on.
I had the issue that you mentioned where you put some video on Reaper and then it is hard to edit because it doesn't seek as fast as it should. And putting the iframes there helped me. So I don't know what's up with that. But another thing you can do is after recording, you can use any kind of tool like FFmpeg to convert from variable bitrate to constant bitrate. And while you're doing that, you probably also want to convert the audio from the AAC that is going to be in the video container into wave. Because I had an issue with that. I was editing the video that I captured with OBS, so I just pulled apart the video and then the audio as an AAC, because I thought, well, it's already a lossy compression, so I don't get any benefits in terms of audio quality. I'm just going to end up with bigger files if I convert to wave. So I put the AAC in Reaper, and any time I made a cut, for whatever reason, maybe related to this, maybe not, but whenever I made a cut, the audio would go ever so slightly out of sync with the image. And I didn't even have to move things around. I could just go into the footage and start splitting the video items, and they would go out of sync. So, yeah, you may want to do a pre-processing step.
When you converted to wave, that was fine.
Yeah, when I converted to wave, that was fine.
Happening.
But since you're having these issues, you can just tell FFmpeg or any other kind of conversion tool that is probably going to be a graphical user interface on top of FFmpeg. But if you're using Handbrake or something like that, you can definitely tell them to convert the image or convert the video into a better format for editing. So you may want to go with MP4 and just put some more iframes in the middle and make it constant bitrate. Or you may want to go Apple ProRes, which if you have the disk space, in Reaper, it's going to be like blazing fast because that encoding is not meant for transmission over the internet. It's meant for editing. And so they don't do all these sorts of tricks. They, for instance, will probably have more iframes, and they may not even have B frames because B frames are the most costly ones. You have to go forward in time to reconstruct a B frame.
Forward and backward.
So they may not even have B frames in there. And then it's going to take a lot of disk space. but it's going to be so smooth for editing. So, yeah.
Interesting. So I did try. I didn't use Handbrake to try that. I used Reaper to try that, and I may have used the wrong settings. But I thought I just matched the bitrate in video and audio. So audio, I do 256. I did 256, and video at the time when I did this, I think I was doing 12,000, and I just did 12,000. And when I exported and re-imported to Reaper, the quality was already like one level lower. But maybe I should try Handbrake. Maybe that would, or at least try to see if that's different. But ProRes is a good idea because I mean, like, okay, I don't have so much disk space, but to be honest, and this is probably not a good idea, but I've been doing it. As soon as I release a video, all the footage from it gets deleted. I don't save. I use YouTube as my storage because like whatever I can download off of there, maybe it'll be like with reduced quality, but I do not keep my files. So I temporarily have enough to do ProRes. I should try that.
Yeah, and my recommendation towards that, after I've done some research on that as well, it seems like most people don't store the raw footage, but they store the MP4 that they upload to YouTube. It's a good idea to keep that one around because you never know. YouTube may just for random reasons be annoying and decide that you no longer have access to your old videos because of some copyright claim or someone says that you are planning a terrorist attack or whatever. So they just cut you off and then you lose the whole history. So
I've been burned by that before with MySpace actually. So yeah, maybe I should keep my final.
Yeah,
videos.
I do the same. I don't typically do it on every video, or these days I'm not even working with video all that much. I'm mostly streaming, but I just when the hard drive fills up, I go there and I delete all the footage that I recorded, but I keep the final product. Because you never know. And when you download from YouTube, you'll never get the same as what you put in the first place. You cannot download from YouTube the original file. You can only download the version they already processed.
That's true. By the way, speaking of that, I'm guessing the answer is no. But remember, you recorded a video for the scripting tutorial. Like, well, you've done it a few times, but the very last one. So I had a hard drive failure right after that, and that file is corrupted. So do you happen to have the same file somewhere in your computer, or is it gone?
You mean the file that I uploaded to you? It's still there on the Google Drive thing that I...
Oh, great. Okay. I somehow had the recollection that you used WeTransfer, but awesome. I'll go to our emails and find it. Cool.
Yeah, I use Google Drive instead of eTransfer because that's the devil I know. And Foti says that he does the same, keeping the master files when making videos. But no one has the disk space to keep all the footage. It's just too much. Right, so the next elephant in the room is kind of an interesting one. When you put OBS to record something, you have to fiddle with all the settings and whatnot. And then you ask QuickTime to record. And it records at higher quality and doesn't break a sweat. So what's up with that? Well, first, how come it is so fast? Well, it is so fast because it is using a different technique to record. In OBS, you can do things like compositing. You can do this. You can take the green screen out. You can put our images on top of the computer display and whatnot. And to do that, it has to capture the screen in a different way, and it has to composite in a different way. And also, there are some things that Apple can do because they have special powers in the operating system. So QuickTime is faster than OBS. And if you are only recording the screen is the only thing you're recording, then maybe using QuickTime is better than OBS. People on the OBS forum are going to tell you that.
Like, issue one with that is that, I mean, I guess this makes a little bit of extra sense to me now because I was like, well, in OBS, I was also not compositing an image anymore. I was just capturing my screen and I was adding my voiceover. with QuickTime, I can't do any of that, but I'm totally okay. Well, I'm not totally okay doing that in post. It is literally double the editing because I'd have to like record a video and mumble my way through it, then go write a script so I can remember all the steps I've done, and then re-record myself saying all the same stuff. So I would prefer not to do that. But why did I say all this? Oh, so the quality thing too. The thing that a little bit worries me is that it's variable. Like every time the bit rate is different, it somehow decides that, I guess, based on how well it can do it.
Yes.
But it still creates kind of trust issues.
Yeah. So the first reason why you may want to not use QuickTime is the trust issues. First, because you have no control over the settings. Well, you kind of have some control, but it's not satisfactory. So when you're doing a screen recording in QuickTime, you can decide to go with where do I even find that setting? I forget. There is somewhere in here where you are able to say, I want the highest quality, or maybe that's just for camera. For screen recording, you don't even get that. Yeah, I maybe misremember, because you can record video as well. If you have a webcam connected to QuickTime, you can use that. So I think that if you have a webcam... You
can do both, but yeah, you can do one or the other.
You can do one or the other, or you can open two instances and actually record both. But the kind of control that you have over...
and that's through your little trick.
You don't even need to do that. With QuickTime, you can just start two recordings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you start a new movie recording, that's with a camera, and then you can start an audio recording or a screen recording, but you cannot start two of the same. So if you have two cameras connected, you cannot record both of them at the same time.
Right.
But that would solve your issue. You could record your screen, record your camera, record your audio in 3 different files. You probably would want to record the audio directly in Reaper. In any case, the kinds of controls that you have over the quality are sparse. When you're recording the camera, you can record at the highest quality setting or just high quality. So it's maximum quality or high quality, something like that. And when
high maximum. Screen the same, I think. Or at least on my end, you can choose high or maximum. It was also having a sample rate issue, but you can fix that from the audio MIDI setup. So I wondered if there's a place where it kind of gets all that other info from the video, but at least I looked it up. I didn't find anything.
So when you're recording with QuickTime, you have the kinds of controls I described, and that's it. You cannot decide on the frame rate. You cannot decide on resizing something. Like in OBS, you can have a screen that is 2K, but you want to record in 180p. You can do that in OBS. You cannot do that in QuickTime. Okay, but that's okay as long as you are happy with the quality, and it's a higher quality thing anyway, so why bother? Well, the second reason is the deal breaker, or at least it was for me. The deal breaker is QuickTime is not really trustworthy. When you start recording QuickTime, you see something up here on the menu bar that says that you're recording. But I had problems in the past where I would record for half an hour and then I would stop and then I would watch the video, and everything after 15 minutes was just garbage and no program could recover that. I tried many different techniques.
Yeah, I've had that issue too. And I think it happens because, well, I don't exactly know how to do it, but like when you record a QuickTime video, at the end, it asks you to save it.
Yeah.
So as your video gets longer and longer, it feels like at that stage it fails and you get that wheel. And then like I've been burnt by that before.
Yeah. So the cool thing about, one of the reasons why that happens, it's just one of the reasons, right? But one of the main reasons why that happens is even the container format. Every video feed has to live inside a container, the most famous one being MP4, and what QuickTime records is similar to MP4. It's a proprietary version of MP4 called .mov, made by Apple, of course. And in a .mov movie, I guess, .mov, if anything happens in the middle of the recording that is going to break your file, first, it's not really going to warn you, and second, it's going to mess up with everything after that. So if there is
Yeah, even OBS says this, right? That's why they have like this remux situation.
Yeah, so in OBS, you can decide what container you want to use. And if you choose a sane container for recording, like MKV, which is the default, the MKV container works differently. So if any glitch is happening in the middle of the recording, you
just lose the middle.
It can recover from that. And more importantly, it's not going to which is something that may happen with an MP4. If you don't close the MP4 correctly, at the trailing end of the MP4 file, you need to have some information that is like an index into the rest of the file. So if you don't put that part in the MP4, you may even lose footage before the glitch.
The whole thing.
You may lose the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's no fun. So that's why I stopped using QuickTime, because it was making me lose time and lose footage. And that's no good. There is something in the middle that you may want to explore. It has some of the benefits of OBS in the sense of control over the size of it and everything. But it is using similar technology. It's this guy here.
So it's not like compositing like OBS. It's just,
no, it's closer to
like
QuickTime in that sense.
Options.
It's just capturing your screen.
Okay.
And it does give you some control over... So it's going to record in MP4. So that's a downside. But it does give you some control. I wish there was a print screen of like the main interface. Well, this is sort of the main interface of that. But you can decide, for instance, the size. I think that you can record at a lower size if you need. And it gives you a bit more control. But it's under the hood using the same technology as QuickTime. And that's something that you may want to try. But again, if you lose...
I'll try that.
Yeah, if you lose... If the glitch happens in the middle, you may lose the whole thing, which is no fun. So OBS is more robust in that sense. And that's why I'm using OBS to record, even if I just have to do a screen capture with no compositing, nothing weird. I still use OBS.
I mean, I always did that, and honestly, like it feels so depressing. I feel so betrayed because really, like, the only thing I had going in my life was that Reaper and OBS were together. Like, they were so easy that I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just shooting videos like crazy, and now I just feel like I'll never get that trust back. And I just want to know, like, you know, like, part of me just wants to know why. Like, what happened that from one week to another, suddenly OBS decided I can't handle this bitrate anymore? I don't get it.
Yeah, so there are many things we can do to investigate this further. The simplest is to just run OBS for a moment and make the glitches happen. And then we can look at the logs. You can come here to help and then log files, and then you can see the logs. And sometimes in the log, there will be something that explains the issue.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I forgot to bring that up. I tried that, and there was something weird there, but then I tried to fix it, and that didn't fix anything. Which was, let me find it. Oh, so one was failed to load ENGB text for module core audio encoder. So I changed the encoder for that. Another one, there was one, I'm trying to find it. It specifically mentioned freaking black hole. So I switched to another. I also have VB cable, and I also have Soundflower. So I also tried both of those. That didn't really help. And what else? There was another thing that I thought was really interesting, and that could be an issue. It says... No, I can't find it. I couldn't find it. But yeah, so those were some things that I investigated. You also mentioned the activity monitor. So with Reaper and OBS both open, my activity monitor, it shows like Reaper at like 20%, and then OBS is like at 295% CPU.
That's all right, because your machine is multi-core. So 200% CPU, it just means 2 cores.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine.
Yeah, probably your PC or your Mac is like 4 CPUs, right? Probably.
I can check. I think I may have i5 Intel Core.
Yeah, you can
If it
come here
doesn't
in the
say
activity
quad, does that
monitor and you
mean-
can show CPU usage. It's going to show how many cores you have. For instance, I have 8.
Oh, that's nice.
You can even see the CPU history for all 8 of them. So you can enable all of these, and also the GPU history may come in handy. So you can enable all of this, put all of these monitors on the second display, and you can keep monitoring things as you do stuff, right? Before I started
where do
streaming,
you see
probably
the
my GPU
number
was
of
under
cores?
here. And then I started streaming, and then it goes up. But if it goes up and goes too much, then you'll be able to tell, oh, okay, it's a problem. The problem is the GPU. Oh no, the problem is CPU.
Where do you see the number of cores?
Oh, for instance,
I'm in
here
the
I have 8.
activity one. Let me see. Oh, your activity monitor is not like mine.
You have to come to window and then show these windows.
Okay. So I guess another. Let's see. So I go to CPU usage, and it didn't open anything. Why didn't it open it?
It should look like this.
Oh.
CPU usage looks like
Yes.
this. So this is just
And then,
momentary CPU
I just
usage.
count. Mine is 6. So even right now, I'm just talking to you on Video Ninja. I guess I do have OBS open. I have like all 6 of them nearly near the top. So I guess this is the and this can be like almost the last question, because at least I have some things to try and we can kind of do an update on it. But could it be that just my CPU like just got really overworked and it like gave out?
Permanently? No. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So one thing to try is definitely this. You probably want to just open the activity monitor, put all these tabs on the second screen and record something. Don't record anything for real, okay? Just and start recording in OBS and go do some mixing for your day job or whatever, right? You want to use the computer.
Yeah.
Don't want to just go get a coffee. You want
Right.
to use the computer to see how it's going to handle that. And then keep an eye out, because if the GPU is the problem, you see that. If the CPU is the problem, you see that. So that helps. And the other thing you can try is get rid of all your settings in don't get rid of them, but save them, and then switch to a different profile and scene collection where you don't have any custom settings. Just go to something like super basic, like simple output mode, software encoding, and keep the bitrate at like 12, 14, something like that, something reasonable. Maybe 16 if you want to go for it. But just try that, because maybe that will help. And
like just going back to simple.
yeah, just try the simplest thing that could work. I changed around
So
all
that
the settings
does
a whole
work?
lot, and I realized that in the end OBS was doing a good job with just the simple settings, and that's what I have been using for like months now.
So I did try the simple thing and it does work, but it does mean that I have to go back to 1080p at 2K. It doesn't. But if I am at simple and I'm at 1920 by 1080, it works fine. So that's something I considered. I was like, just let's go back to 1080p, but I was really just heartbroken.
Well, and even
to have to
180p,
possibly
let
do
me
that.
tell you, we are streaming at 180p right now, and it doesn't look too bad. It's not the end
Right.
of the world. I think in some
yeah.
situations it may be even better to have a steady frame rate. I think frame rate is the most important. If the frames are dropping, it's a whole mess. I think that frame rate is the most important thing. So if you can keep a steady frame rate, and if you can keep a relatively okay bit rate, like 1K, 8K, if you can keep 8K in terms of bit rate, It's not a half bad recording, really. And there are other things that you may want to try, like instead of recording the whole screen, record a section of the screen or zoom into stuff. And you could record the screen at 180p and maybe put the screen next to your face instead of on top of your face or something like that.
Well, with that, then when you're watching in 1080p, it's a bit small.
Why? No, that doesn't make sense.
Like, you mean like I'm in 2K, so my resolution is 2560 by 1440, and then 1920 by 1080 of that is the screen, and then there's some like overlay, and then my face is like on somewhere else in the screen? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, I just meant that you can, instead of composite like this, where you are on top of the screen, you could make the screen smaller and to the side. So you end up having more pixels to fill up that space.
Yeah. So then if you're like watching on a phone, I'm worried that the portion of the screen that's the screen is a bit too small.
Fair. And then in that case, maybe you would like to take out the camera and zoom into whatever you're doing. I don't know. It depends. There is no just one right way of doing this. But I really think that it's a software issue, and it can be disappointing. Let me tell you, I spent so many nights testing things out until I nailed a setting that is working for now. But it is frustrating.
But you
difficult.
do think that it's not hardware, it's software?
It seems to me, yes.
Cool. Well, I guess kind of cool. That means I don't have to buy a new computer, but also kind of not cool because it's not like, oh, it's software, I can fix it. But at least I have some things to try, so that's a good step in the right direction.
Yes. Let's see what people have to say on the chat. Fotis also prefers Google Drive. So what is the advantage of WeTransfer over Google Drive, Arya?
Well, my drive is full, and WeTransfer, I guess it's good. Like, I don't know, with work and stuff, I just give people a download link. If I give them a Google Drive thing, Google Drive is also a little bit dumb with permissions. Like you know, it has a feature where it goes like share link, and then you can say anyone with the link can view, edit, etc. But then they click on it and they're like, oh, you gotta give me access. So I got annoyed with it. But also, yeah, my drive is super full because I have like work stuff on it. I just got tons of stuff on it. I got tons of emails, and all of those things are filling up my drive.
Fair. There is this new thing, I forget the name, but I heard a podcast with the guy who developed it. It's super nice, where instead of having a central server that stores the file temporarily for you, it is this thing that the file is on your computer, and then you and the person you're transferring the file to have to be online at the same time. But then you can transfer the file with end-to-end encryption. It's super nice. The architecture of the thing is super nice. I forget the name.
I use a similar thing for that called TeamViewer. It's nice. Like when I had COVID, I used TeamViewer to remotely control the stream that we were doing at the TV station. And then you can use the same program to then just send those files to yourself, and I could edit them from here. So I was running the stream remotely, and then I could just send it to myself and edit it here, and then just put it back in the same computer.
Cool. And Fotis is saying that if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you can use Shadowplay to capture your screen. I don't think that applies because in Macs I expect
Apple,
to have in the
yeah.
newer Macs with the M1 processor, naturally the GPU is going to be embedded because it's a system on a chip. But before it was Intel graphics, not NVIDIA.
Yeah, I have Intel.
Oh, okay, so Fotis' suggestion is to not go with Apple ProRes, but to use Cineform. Yeah, any of those low compression codecs are probably going to be good. And
I don't think I have Cineform or HEVC and Reaper, and DNX HD I also dislike. ProRes I can live with. I could convert the video in DaVinci, but I mean, and push comes to shove, like I would do that, but honestly, like it's also just a crazy, like I just want to do everything in Reaper. I just want things to go back to the way they were. I don't want to do extra steps.
yeah, encoding in the middle is always a bit annoying. Even remuxing is kind of annoying. That's why I wrote that script that remuxes for you in Reaper and even extracts different audio tracks from within the
I
container.
don't even remux. I just edit the MKV in Reaper. It's been working out fine.
Yeah.
It was until, yeah.
You can also try that, which is the newer encoding. I think that's what is in VP1, isn't it? I forget. But definitely you don't need to throw things in DaVinci just to encode them. You could use Handbrake. You could use, what is the Apple one? It's not even that expensive. I think it's called Compressor.
Oh, that just comes with your thing, no? Or it used to, at least. Compressor used to be just in Mac Utilities. I guess it's not anymore.
No, you have to pay for that, but it's inexpensive. But really, Handbrake is probably going to do a fine job. Or FFmpeg. I really like FFmpeg because I can use it on the command line and I can script stuff using FFmpeg.
Handbrake does use FFmpeg though, no?
Well, they do use FFmpeg for some things, but they also have special converters in there that are not necessarily using FFmpeg. Same with OBS, by the way. In OBS, you can also encode using FFmpeg if you want. It's probably not a good idea. There is no really excellent reason to do that. I had glitches happen to me when I was using FFmpeg in OBS, but it's something you can do.
I didn't see that option. All I see is Apple hardware encoder, software encoder, and then X264.
I forget how you do that. How about we try this?
I think my FFmpeg may also not be like set up correctly or something. I don't
So
know.
hang in there. While I am streaming with OBS, I'm going to try to open a second instance of OBS. If that doesn't work out, I see you tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, I got it. A window saying OBS is already running. Unless you meant to do this, please shut down any existing instances of OBS before trying to run a new instance. If you have OBS set to minimize to system tray, please check to see if you're still running there. Okay, I'm going to click on launch anyway. Wish me luck.
All right.
What's the worst that can happen? Okay, now we have two OBSs. And on this one, I am not really streaming, so I can go to any setting I want.
This is okay. Your video got a little like laggy, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, so see here, custom output.
Oh, okay. I do have that. I didn't try it because I was like, here's another whole bag that I don't understand whatsoever. So I didn't even dive into because I just really wanted to know what happened to how things were before. So at least now I have some ideas. I'll try these, and probably it is best if I capture my screen and then capture my voiceover after, so I don't fucking mumble all the time. Or
hang in there. I'm gonna close this OBS because the call it became really funky after I put that on the screen.
Okay.
Okay, I think we are better now.
Yeah, now it's back to normal.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, you can use FFmpeg from OBS, but I don't recommend. It doesn't work all that well. I had glitches, I lost footage.
Yeah.
I got burned.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a lot of cool stuff to already for me to try. So thanks.
Whatever happened to the AV1 codec? It is up and running. I think that if you go to YouTube these days, you're going to be using AV1. Oh, okay. So this is another converter tool. Oh, I don't think that the forks are going to be any different, because the forks in different editions of OBS, most of them anyway, the famous ones, are just user interface stuff. They don't change the internals.
Yeah, I thought to use Streamlabs, but Streamlabs honestly annoys the hell out of me. I hate. Okay, this is a completely irrelevant rant, but I hate programs where the interface buttons are just icons. It's like, I don't know what you mean by these fucking visuals that you're showing me. You're showing me a triangle and it means one thing. Use text. Like, why will people do this? It's like a picture of like a smiley face, and it's supposed to be like the front-facing camera. Get the hell out of here. Instagram, all these goddamn apps do this, and I truly want them all to lose their jobs, whoever's in charge of that stuff.
So research has been done on this, and the result is that just icons is the worst. Just text is better, but
Yeah.
best is icon and text.
Yeah, I can live with that. Yeah.
And okay, Bo is asking if I have an automatic gain control thing for vocals. I do. I'm using the Tri-Leveler by Sonic Anomaly. Right now, as we speak, my voice is going through that.
Tri-Leveler is good too. I think Bo is looking to generate like automation for it, but I guess you can use Tri-Leveler for that. Because the parameters that Tri-Leveler adjusts, it can probably spit them out as automation that you can record if you're in write mode. Hopefully.
I don't think so.
That should be in every VST, like whatever the VST is doing. Like, you know, like in a compressor, they should really be able to spit out the compression, like the gain reduction structure that they're doing. They should be able to spit that out as automation.
Ah, look at that. They do have that. Sliders 10
Yeah.
to 15 are not showing in the interface. Oh, no, that's not it.
You
I
can't
thought
write
that
them,
that was the
right?
attenuation, but no, that's a setting that none of these sliders are shown in the interface, because they have a graphical user interface here, but that is just more settings that you have under config here. So that's those settings. But what you
those-
would like
you
to
see,
have
like,
is
with
some
those
slider that
3
would represent
meters,
this, so you
yeah.
could write them, right? And that is not
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's not the case. No, you don't have that. But it's not too hard to build. You would just change the code here to
Right.
say like slider 16 is, and then you have to pick the right name.
that.
So you have to read the code and find where there, for instance, read
Yeah.
out, loves out. Probably somewhere in here,
Yeah.
this loves out or LU out. No, that's probably these guys. So
That works too, I think. I think that would work. But that should just become a thing that all plugins do, because it would be super useful.
yeah, so they have here this. It is going to initialize a slider with S11. So you probably have to look at what is S11, but I suppose it is. Yeah, it's going to be one of these sliders. Okay, so that's the inputs. That's not what you need either. Where are these guys rendering this? Fast, medium, and slow dynamics.
They probably have a weird name, no? Or like a counterintuitive name.
I don't know. Why would you say that?
I don't know. They usually do. They're called like, I don't know. I can't think of a good example, but sometimes I'm like, why did you call that?
Yeah, I don't know. You would have to spend 5 to 10 minutes here finding. Oh, maybe this? I don't know. In any case, you would have to spend some time here finding what are the variables that are going to be used to plot this, and then you assign them to sliders, and then you will have what you want.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I sorry, I totally blanked on what I was gonna say because I saw my cat doing something weird. Never mind.
And I heard about Clap. I read this name somewhere, and I have no idea what that's about.
Everybody's talking about Clap. I saw somebody ask Justin Frankel on askjustinfrankel.com as well.
Right, and Bo, if you have a slider, then I think that you can say that you want the output of that slider to be written to an envelope. But I don't know how to do that actually.
Sorry, what was the thing? To make a slider write automation?
Yeah, so if JSFX has a slider, I think that you can say that slider should be written as automation.
Becomes a display. Yeah, well, Bo is doing that on his own compressor, so he definitely knows that.
Oh, sure.
Or why are you asking that? I didn't get that.
Right.
I think I learned it from Bo.
Ah, okay. Okay, so I think we wrapped up on the whole discussion about the meta stream, right?
Yeah.
And you have some more things to test. Just try to test without the second display. Try to test, or the first display, I don't know. Try to test without with the activity monitor and see what may be the issue. And who knows, maybe the issue is even a hard drive, like you mentioned, right? The hard drive is not able to write to disk as fast as it should.
Well, now I'm using an SSD, so I don't know.
Nah, go figure. Right, so this was not the stream that I was expecting to have, but it has been a fun one. So is there anything that you want to update real quick on the website thing that we should have done or we will be doing next week?
Let's see. No, I'm just doing I've added a bunch of like blogs and stuff to the episodes that didn't have a blog post when I first wrote it. But I don't think that I had any questions on that. I don't think so, no.
So did you update the tags JSON file to be in the order that you want them to be?
No, I think you am I crazy? I thought you said like you won't push those changes until we finish the code.
Oh, I am. Yeah, I already pushed the tags JSON file so that you can change the order of things here to be in the order that you want to be, right? But I'm not pushing. Well, I actually pushed. They just commented out the part that would generate the page. But you still have access here to the metadata.
I can still do the order. Okay, cool. Sorry, I misunderstood that bit.
Yeah, so this is your homework for next time. You need to reorder this to be in the order that you want for things to appear. And as a side note, because we have this file with all the tags, it is redundant. We will not use the tags from here. We will use the tags from there. So if you want, you can get rid of this. It's up to you, but really.
Okay. I guess the difference was like if they're at a centralized location just before I make any blog, I would I'll do that. I would, but before I make any blog, I would just go and update this tags, which is cool because I can decide on the order. This is an interesting thing that happened. It wasn't the case before, but now suddenly I noticed it with the new episodes where the tags do show on top of the page. Before it wasn't showing. It's not a huge deal either because it just shows tags, like it doesn't show some sensitive information.
I see what you mean. The current implementation as it stands is treating this as text. So it's just rendering that as text.
Oh, okay.
Because we were not using
it's
the
fine.
gray matter thing.
Oh, okay. It's totally fine. Like it's tags and it's a date. It's not like any kind of information that's useless or really vague.
But that's so easy to
so
fix.
even
That
if
may be
people
the thing
see
that
it,
we
I'm
do. So we
totally
say that we did something on the stream as we promised. So,
okay.
right, we have here the tags.js file that we have used to produce tags.json. So we can look at that. Let's look at tags.js. And then we can borrow some of the code. So
How do you do this, by the way, when you make a split screen?
There are two ways of doing it. You can just
theme?
grab a tab and put it here and let it go.
Oh, okay.
And what I often do is when I'm looking at the same file, but I want to see two parts of it, it's command and then backslash, not forward slash, backslash.
Okay.
And then it's going to split the screen this way. Or you can just click on this little icon here, but you said that you don't like icons, but yeah, that's how you do it.
I just need to know what they do. Like even Visual Studio, like when you hover over it, it tells you. So even that I can live with. What I can't live with is the Streamlabs version where it's just like, here's the icon. I guess you'll click it and find out. But what if the icon is to like kill a bunch of children? I don't know.
Fair point. Right, so right now we are importing gray matter, and then let's find the place where we get a hold of the markdown files. For instance, here. And then what do? We start doing stuff, and then we ensure that the directory exists. That's kind of silly, isn't it? The file exists, so the directory must exist, but all right. And then we actually do the markdown process.
But remember, some pages don't have tags, like the bio page. So that's why you wrote that bit of code.
Okay, I guess. Whatever. We just need to look at everywhere where we are using the markdown processor, which turns out to be two places. Okay, I think I get it. So let's start here. This is where we are rendering the pages. Before we even fix the issue, let's see the issue. So I don't need to run this until it completes, but yeah, let's go to localhost, and then let's go to this one, and then this is the issue. Right, I stopped running the thing because I don't need to run the whole thing because I'm just about to change the way that works. So right now I am reading the file and I'm pressing the results of reading the file directly to the markdown processor. That is the part that we need to change. We need to grab this from there, and then we just pass the data to the markdown, or the content to the markdown processor, just like this. And now let's grab this fellow and see the tags are gone. Great. That was easy, right?
Cool. Yeah, that was very painless.
And let's
it's always painless for me, to be honest.
And then we also want to reproduce this change over here where we are doing the index page. We are also rendering the markdown to get the hold of the title and the image. So we'll do the same trick. Copy that over here and then take just the content instead of all of this.
But in that page, do we even have tags?
No, but it is going to, first of all, we will. That is what is down here. But also, the markdown file has a front matter, so we need to strip it out. And that's what this is doing essentially, stripping out the front matter.
Gotcha.
So I'm not going to commit this whole thing. It's your job to download the latest version and rerun the script to regenerate all the HTML. But as soon as you pull the changes and npm start, you're going to see that every file is going to be regenerated. So it's your job to do that.
Sure, that's smart.
I can hear myself with some latency. It means that my wife is watching me on the living room. It means it's time for me to go. I'm pushing these changes here.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, I'll say it again. Tomorrow, what's up with this? I have an overlay here.
Do we meet on Discord, or like you're gonna be streaming it, right?
Yeah. So the plan is for tomorrow. The plan is that we will have the first meeting of our C++/DSP/Juice study group, and we are going to meet on Skype. If you want to have the link for all of that, you can go to the Discord group where we are all at, or how about I just drop this on the chat for anyone who's watching this. So there you go. Go to the link that I put on the chat right now, and there you will find the Discord server, and in the Discord server you'll find the link, and you will meet everyone who is involved in this study group. And there will be a link for a Skype call. We are all going to join tomorrow at 6:15 UTC, and then we'll decide when we are going to meet and how often and what we are going to talk about, and we are going to introduce ourselves. There is a bunch of new people who are interested, and you'll see. So, yeah, that's it.
Cool. That sounds like a plan. I'll like 90% will be there, but there's always a possibility that I'd have to get called in to help somebody with a stream. But yeah, I'll hopefully be there.
All right. Looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. And thank you, Arya, for streaming with me and talking about all the fun stuff with OBS. I'm sorry you're having the issues that you are having, but we'll figure it out. And we also did something on your website, as promised in the title of this stream. So there you go.
Yay. People should know nowadays to expect tangents from me and you. When we get together, we go on tangents.
That's the fun of it. All right. See you all tomorrow. Bye.
Yeah. See you, everybody.